Mr. Joshua Hernandez, welcome to the Rich Equation podcast. Thank you for being here, brother.
Hello, Ashish. Good to be here, my friend.
It's good to see you. It's good to hang out. I'm excited for this.
Me too. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So, it is early 2022. We're recording with Mr. Hernandez. I'm really excited for this conversation, especially at this time. And I'm really glad we're talking about it right now because your subject matter and your content and what some of the things we're going to talk about today are really relevant specifically to the environment we live in today from a financial perspective, what's going on with the markets, all this political change of tax reform and the state of our current economy and, the certainty and uncertainty of our financial world. So I'm just really excited to be digging into some of this with you today. You know, you are in the money business. You're in the wealth management business. You've been doing it for a really long time. And I actually have, and for everyone listening, I actually have never worked with you. I'm not formally a client. However, we've been talking and working together for years. And I just so appreciate how you show up not only as a wealth manager or somebody who is, coming from that space, but also just as a level-headed financial advisor, just a really level-headed human being. And so I'm super excited for people to hear about your perspective about money mindset, about our relationship with money, and then how we can build and grow and maintain our wealth. So that's what this podcast is all about today, and I'm just really excited for it.
Awesome. Glad to be here, man. It's been a few years, and I'm so excited about this journey that the next journey you've got going on here with not just business, but you're really imparting some good quality, human being type stuff and mindset stuff. I dig it.
Yeah, and just to that, I think, which is why I've always gravitated towards you, because I think it's with you and the way you approach your clients, it's always more about the money. It's not just about the money is what I'm saying, right? So I guess let's start with kind of give us a little bit of an overview about sort of your overall philosophy about wealth management, because I think it's really important for people to hear it from you. What is your perspective about wealth management as we think about wealth preservation over our lifetime?
Yeah, absolutely. So when people think about wealth management, what they're thinking about usually is money, investment, portfolios. And for me, wealth management is more holistic. It's going to be all variety of areas. It's not just about the money. It's about your mindset, but it's about different parts of it. So a lot of the process that I include, we call it here at the 7 money milestones. And the 7 money milestones are all these different key areas about money. And I think that, every successful person that I've met that has done well has these little milestones checked off the box. And, wealth accumulation is just one of the boxes, right? So, it's the debt, the emergency fund. It is the basic education around what money is and how it works. It's estate planning. It's, the budget, right? So there's a variety of things. It's not just about growing this and making the return. It's what about all these other things that, that really involve our financial life every day and how we treat it.
I love that. And the budget, the wealth creation, the estate planning, some of that stuff can be a little bit more mechanical, right? But it's got to be in the plan and you have to think about it. But one of the things I love talking about with you is the money mindset stuff. It's our relationship with money, how we think about money, why we spend money on the things we spend money on. And I guess for you, as you work with clients and, you experience the challenges that people go through about their money mindset, what are some of the most common, maybe trips or pitfalls of the way people think about how to save, build, and create wealth?
Yeah, so a lot of people, I think, come from a place of scarcity and of fear. That's probably the biggest thing I see happening. We're always, let's face it, we need money to survive. I mean, we can get by with very little if we really wanted to. And that's kind of a a lesson on its own. Sometimes we think that we've got to keep, you hear about keeping up with the Joneses. You hear about, hey, this person's got that. And so there's a lot of comparisons. That's one issue, is comparing. And you can have a great life without being totally wealthy. I think a lot of what you're talking about is a wealthy mindset.
Correct.
I know people that have a very modest lifestyle and don't have very much. They live one of the richest lives around me, just because of, they can still do what they want. There's no pressures, and they're doing okay. So one pitfall is comparison. Another pitfall is fear. Fear is, I have the lack of, and, I don't have enough of. And, in case something happens, there's not going to be this bucket of money. So there's that fear.
Sure.
So those are some kind of emotional things I see. There's a lot of comparisons, a lot of fear. Those are some of the things I think about when you ask me that question.
And when somebody comes with that coming from a place of fear, and that fear is coming from a place of loss, right? Like fear of losing, fear of loss. Like here's a certain amount of money, Joshua. I cannot lose this money. I'm coming from a place of fear of losing, right? What is your advice to them? Like, is it just to put money into secure, less risky assets? Doesn't necessarily solve the mindset problem. What do you do when that comes up?
Yeah, and it's often not even so much about the investing scenario. When people come to me about fear, it's just like, just fear about money in general. Like a lot of times I find people are coming from a family where their family struggled for a very long time, and their moms and dads didn't, do very well with money. So, mom and dad are now in this bad situation, and here I don't want to be. So that's where one of the fears. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, first let's find that out. Is that how that happened? All right. And so what do you think they did or did not do for them to end up where they are? And it could be as simple as, they use their credit cards too much. Had nothing to do with investing, credit cards. So, okay, that's identifying maybe what had happened before. How are you doing with your credit cards?
Right.
Are you falling in the same trap, right? Are you, what's the interest rate on these credit cards? Is 20, 25%? Okay, well, I'd be scared of that too. So, how about we just attack that first? And, is it bad credit? All right, so there's always these little things that you can drill down to that have nothing to do with investing your portfolio a certain risky or non-risky way. Mm-hmm. It's, where is that fear coming from? There's the other fear of losing because they maybe were part of the 2008 crash, 2008, 2009 crash, and they lost their entire portfolio, and they don't want to go through that again. That's another fear, right? Whether they had $5,000 or $500,000, they may have lost 30, 40, 50% back then.
Sure.
And they kept all their money in cash the whole time. And now they missed out on this huge growth, right? Okay, well, how can we, move forward from here, forward in a very safe way?
Do you,
yeah.
Do you look at, when you give advice, do you look at the past as a reflection for the future? Or how much of that can you do? Or is it like you got to leave the past losses, the bad habits, the fears or the anxiety of the things that you've learned in 2008 and 2001, whatever, because that's really creating the behaviors of people's today, of the habits that we create today, right? Those traumas. What advice do you have? Because you could miss huge opportunities, or do you just focus on the future?
Yeah, well, it's hard to focus on the future without attaching it to experiences of the past. Our future decisions are always based on our past experiences. There's no way you can just eliminate that. You can't just close your eyes and forget about it. So,
sure.
As logically, I could say, hey, past performance is no indication of future results. Let's just go with what we see here. And we can just, as move forward that way. If we had no emotions, it's just all logic. But that's not true. We're living in a world with humans and experiences. So it is important, and this takes a while, and this even for me, to always remember that my past does not have to indicate my future, whether it's investment portfolios or whether it's my personal success or my personal relationships. And And so, if as soon as you start to think about, your past does not have to equal your future. Your future is a canvas. You can create and paint it however you want. Let's take the tools we've got now and the support. So you've got to have some information. You've got to have resources. You've got to have coaches and people to help you with that. And you can totally change your future, regardless of whatever the past is. But you can't always avoid that. There's always that little bit going on back there.
Yeah. And what is going on in the markets right now? I mean, the things that are going on, not only in the stock market, but the money markets, the the amount of liquidity and, monetary policy, it's insane how much money we've put into the economy. Do you take all of those external factors in place when you're thinking about wealth preservation today, or do you have a much more long-term perspective of asset allocation and just focusing on, investing over the long term and not worrying so much about short-term volatility or perhaps monetary policy? Like, what is your advice on that? And then how do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely factor in what's going on in today's world to help to, make decisions. But if I'm talking to someone that does have, 20, 30 years before they need this money, if it's really retirement type money, then, we've already lived through, 100 years of stock market performance. Like, there is going to be ups and downs, and historical shows that there's going to be more later than is today. No matter what happens, no matter who the president is, no matter what monetary policy there is, there's going to, the market is going to grow. So that's where I start. How far along do we need this? And forget about what's going on, who's in office today. Long term, there's a certain allocation you want to use to get there.
Sure.
Now, if we need some money or we're making some pretty short term decisions, then what's going on today does make a difference. Right now, today, it's beginning of 2022. They're talking about raising interest rates. Inflation is at an all-time high. That inflation is no joke. And if you've got money in a savings account earning less than 1%, the value of your dollar is eroding. It is less. Last year you had $1 in the bank. This year that dollar is worth less than $1 because of the cost of things going up. And so you kind of have to think about, well, I've got to find ways to make my money grow. That might be the market, that might be a business, that might be, a variety of things. And so you got to think about that. The market recently took a dip. You asked about what's going on today. It took a little bit of a dip because interest rates are going up. That means that these big firms, big companies, it's going to be more expensive for them to borrow money. And so people are afraid. They're not going to be as profitable. So you kind of see that impact on the market. But I don't think personally that's going to cause another recession. I think what's going to happen is, people will start to come back to work. The supply chain will start to, kind of come back to normal, hopefully by the end of the year. That means that, that can start reducing the cost of things or leveling it off. And, in the next 6 to 20 months or so, we'll kind of have some normalization there. And that's kind of how I see what's going on today.
Do you spend a lot of time helping people on tax strategy? And that was a silly question. I know you do. But do you find that spending more time on how to save on taxes is as good of a strategy as how to focus on making more money? Like, where should people be spending their energy? Does that make sense? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think you're asking, should you spend more time on taxes or should we spend more time on making more money or earning? Yeah, that's a good question.
Or is the answer both?
Well, absolutely both. It's kind of a tough one. Should you? I guess it depends on what year it is.
Okay.
What your income is.
Right.
Yeah. If I talk to someone that just had a terrible year in business and they're going to declare a loss, no reason to really talk about tax strategy. There's going to be some losses there, so you're not going to have a tax issue. You talk to someone that, is now going to earn so much, they're going to be 40 plus tax bracket. Well, you need to start talking, about some tax strategy. And then you hear all of this stuff about, what's going to happen when the Trump administration law changes in, potentially 2025. then you got to start thinking about stuff, in the future, but not necessarily today because it's not 2025 yet. Right.
Right.
So it's kind of definitely a combination of both of those things.
What should people be thinking about from a tax strategy perspective today into the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah. So again, when the average everyday person, can't, isn't going to be impacted as much as, someone there's this $400,000 income level that they're focused on, right? Anyone earning that kind of income is going to start to see these changes.
Okay.
So I'll go back to that. Anyone below that, there's not gonna be too many changes. Might be some. Anyone above that should start looking at some estate planning ideas with their tax and estate planning advisor, and looking at what they've accumulated and how to maybe reduce some of those estate planning taxes down the road as well. So if you think you're going to do well and continue to do well, then you can start making some plans. Yeah.
One of the things I've always loved about you is we talked about this earlier, but you have such a holistic view about how to think about money and wealth management and how to save. Like, how did you I've never asked you this before, is like, how did you get into this work and why do you do it?
Yeah. It's been about a 20-year process for me now. My degree, my original schooling is in computer science. That's my first degree in my early 20s, and jumped into that field. And pretty quickly, I moved into like a training HR position at that job, and I found just naturally gravitating towards like training and communicating with people versus like being behind the scenes doing the technical work.
Sure.
And while I was there, so financial wasn't at all in my scope, but I was very lucky to have a very successful advisor in the industry offer to sit with me. I'm in my 20s. I have no money. So why he offered it, I don't know why, but I was very thankful for it. And I learned in that 1 hour I spent with him, Ashish, I learned more about money and taxes and insurance and all that stuff with him than I learned in college. And that kind of, for me at that time, just opened my mind. Like, wow, this stuff actually exists. I heard about it. I was in some 401k plan at my job, but no one's ever spent the time. And so I was just personally interested, and I started talking to friends about, hey, did you know about this and that? And they're like, no, we just have this one thing here at work, and that's all we got. And okay. So I kind of found out that the average person, unless you have a big bank account, you're not getting calls from people to help you with money.
Right.
And that's one thing I noticed, is the average industry, and doesn't really pay attention to the everyday person. And I thought, well, I could like see myself doing something like this and teaching this. So they had this kind of entrepreneurial program where they could teach someone and they help you get licensed. They had a great training program. So I became part of their program. And that was my entry into this. And I just fell in love with the education part of this. And, I ended up, opening my own office and running my own agency. And now, I'm helping people that do very well for themselves. And I do some sophisticated stuff around planning and merging tax and estate and wealth. But I never forget why I'm into this business to begin with. And so that's kind of my passion project. I just love just seeing the light bulbs, turn on whenever I talk about a concept and someone's like, oh, that's how compound interest works. So that's the rule 72, or you can actually have these tax benefits in different types of accounts. Just the fundamentals. I really have enjoyed teaching that. So I hold classes every month about stuff like that.
You definitely lead with education, which is, how you serve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And do you go into companies and help employees, or is it mostly like individuals who are searching for more financial acumen? Like, where does that come from?
Yeah. So I have different kind of ways that I help. I help executives implement 401k plans and corporate sponsored plans for the company, but I make myself available to all the employees. And so, I put together a curriculum for those that want it, that the employees can receive some basic financial education that is in addition to their current regular 401k plan. So help on the executive level And I do spend time helping, individual families just go over some basic ideas on how to implement the ideas into their own plan.
How much, as a guy in wealth management, how much do you think about money, about in your own personal life, or how much time do you spend between your ears thinking about your wealth and your money? Or is it not about that? Like, because I think even for entrepreneurs or business people, we think, how do we add value to our customer? How do I build my business? And then if you do it the right way, you don't focus on money, you focus on adding value, and then money comes to you. But then you start building wealth and you start saving more money, and then that's why people say, right, having more money and more problems, because you got to think about your money more often. But I think just for you, I'd love to hear your perspective on that, because I think there ought to be some intention. I don't know if I necessarily have intention about how much time I spend thinking about my money or how to add value to the world. And so just thought I'd ask you that question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I love it. It's kind of a loaded question. So one of the comments you make is, more money, more problems. There is so many slogans about stuff like that. More money, more problems. Money doesn't grow on trees. The way we think about money. So I think more money, more money or no money, there's always the same amount of problems, probably, in my perspective, because you're going to have problems no matter what. And if you don't have money, you've got major problems. If you've got money, you've got problems as well. They're just a little bit different. I would rather have problems with money, because it's easier to solve those problems, right? How much time I spend thinking about money, probably more than most people, because that's all I do in my career. And, I just constantly do that now. How much I spend about, my own money, I don't actually spend more time thinking about other people's money than I do my own money. It's right. I always think about my dad, the mechanic. My dad was a mechanic. And, the story is true, right? This mechanics spend more time fixing everyone else's problem while they've got a broken down car in their own driveway.
The son of the cobbler, as they say.
I need an advisor for myself. I've got my own counselors to help me because I'm so personally attached. Where I spend most of my time thinking about is how to get better at communicating the message. That probably is where I spend the most time with now in my life, is how do I get better at communicating these thoughts and concepts?
So give us an example. What do you mean? Give us an example.
Yeah, well, as a business owner, you have this vision of what you want your company to be, and you have to communicate that to certain people to have them join your team, to have quality people join your team.
Sure.
The better you get good at communicating what your vision is and what you have to offer, the better quality of people you have joining your team. In my line of work, a lot of it is very intangible. You've got these investments, all you get is a statement. You've got, policies, insurance policies, all you've got is a statement. You can't reach out and touch it. That's, I hear a lot of times is, wow, I really want to get into real estate. And I think real estate is a great asset class. There's also absolutely great opportunities there. But people feel a lot more comfortable with real estate often because they can actually touch a home and walk into it and sleep it. They can't live in an insurance policy or live inside of an estate plan or live inside of their 401k plan. They can't touch it. So these are intangibles. And so we have to get good at communicating what these things can do for you, how to treat them,
interesting.
how to turn them into something that you can actually make your dreams come true with. And that's what I mean by getting better at communicating a message.
And how are you doing?
Well, I'm still in business and people call me for advice.
Right.
So I guess
you're doing something right. That's so good. Yeah. What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night is, I want to make sure that I'm often just delivering for my clients, and of course my family. You see some, if you're watching, you see some fun pictures. We love to hike. My wife and I, Trum. This is Banff, Canada, and so I dream about fun places to get out and explore. And Thankfully, we built a business that gives us the opportunity to go out and travel kind of whenever we want to. A lot of what I do, I can do from wherever I am, virtually. But aside from that, on the business level, it's always just, making sure that, my clients are being taken care of. And, I always like to follow through with what I'm talking about. So, this thing here, this person there, we need to do. So making sure we're taking care of our clients and the people we care about.
What do you, either in personal or business, what do you wish you knew 20 years ago? If you knew that today, like that would make you so much more powerful. Like what do you wish you knew?
Yeah, that has a lot to do with, the fear of failure, early on. I'm not a natural born salesperson. I'm not a natural. Yeah.
Wow.
You might see me like, Josh can talk. He's giving these lectures. He does public speaking gigs. In my natural, place.
Yeah.
I love just sitting down and having a one-on-one conversation and having no one around, and I can enjoy that all day.
Sure.
But I learned pretty early on that it doesn't matter how smart you are. If no one knows about you, then you're doing no one any good.
Yeah, so true. I love that.
And so you've got, we talked about tax strategies. You've got some very smart CPAs out there, but they're terrible about communicating their message and what they do. So, and until you find out about them, they're just in their own little space, right? And, they're all brains. And so, this is...
I love that, because that's what's calling you, right? Like pulling that content out, making it relatable and being able to connect with people. Like that's your gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. And so early on, I was so scared of making mistakes, and I was so scared of this public speaking thing and getting out, that if I would have done some of the things I'm doing now sooner and just, hey, it's okay to make some mistakes here and there. That's what life is about. It just makes you so much better. And, it's really about how you take those mistakes that you can make and how quickly you can turn them into something positive and a learning experience. The sooner you can get good at turning something that didn't turn out right into something that could be better later, the faster you start succeeding in life, for me.
In this juncture in your life and all the things you got going on, if you're trying to manage a growing business, you have, a family man, what are you most afraid of?
Most afraid of that, health. Health is probably the most, the scariest thing. You hear all these things about, what's going on or all around you. And that's, I'm not so much scared about that, this COVID stuff,
Sure.
that is a real thing, but it's just, there's so many ideas that you have. And if you're someone that, wants to accomplish certain things, you want to get it all done. And so I'm not fear of dying. I've lived a very fun life, but I do want to do more. And there's so much more to explore. And that's probably the biggest thing is, having great conversations like this. Like I enjoy stuff like this now, and being able to collaborate and have some great conversations with friends of mine that are meaningful.
Sure.
About improving our communities, improving ourselves, making a difference. Like I actually do really care about those kinds of conversations more now than ever.
Yeah, that's clear for sure with you. I mean, what do you hope that your legacy is? What do you hope to leave behind?
Yeah, that's like such a valuable question. When I think about that, right? And I'd like, first, I don't, one of the things personally is I don't want to be forgotten so quickly, right? I would like, nephews, nieces, and their kids to say, hey, we had Uncle Josh, he had done some things, and like, here are some lessons that he taught me personally, that has helped me. So I'd love, I've got my clients that, I love what we do, because we're actually impacting people's wealth, which actually could be intergenerational. So that's what I love about my career. And just as importantly is just, family, just little things about how to treat people and how to go about, achieving the things that you want. And those are the things I want to, have my family talking about, 50 years from now.
I love that. I love that perspective. And, thinking about legacy and when you leave, for people not to forget you quickly, like it's such a critical thing, which means you really need to make the impact deep. It's not just making impact. It's like you got to make the impact deep so it sticks. It lingers. I love that, man.
Yeah, you just like took the feeling out of it. Absolutely. It's, you could say, hey, I want to have the best vacation in Hawaii possible. So you're going to have a great Hawaii experience, and you plan all this stuff out. And then once it's over, it's over. But if you want to plan something that's going to last beyond you, this is just a whole different level.
I love that, brother.
Those are some of the things I'm beginning to think more about.
Well, I mean, what I pick up from that, what I hear from that also is, and you said it too, is like, it's about the people. It's about the connection, right? I mean, you mentioned some people in your life there. And even as I think about this question, it's like, it's not about the businesses you build. It's not about how much money you have. It's about like who. It's the who. It's who's going to remember. And what are they going to remember? And did they remember that time that you took a 15-minute walk with them and were incredibly present and taught them something that they'll remember for the rest? Like, you remember that one guy who spent 1 hour with you 20 years ago. Like, think about that. That's lasting legacy. So I love how you frame that, and which is why, I mean, we're friends and why I love talking to you. Like, it is really about relationships for you, and just such a great, healthy reminder.
Yeah. It's when you spoke about it, there's certain people that have made a lasting difference in your life. I'd like to be that person to make that lasting difference. But that's also can be very burdensome if you were trying to think about how can I do that for everybody.
Yep.
So you also have to, think about that. Like, don't just be that person, I guess, is also a very important thing for me, is just be. Be.
Beautiful.
Do. Make it who you are. And what happens is it just happens on its own. But it's a pursuit, right? It's a kind of a daily thing. It can't just be something you did last week.
Do you have a daily routine that helps you perform at this level?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. Every morning, I'm waking up. Well, I have what my routine should be, and then I have my routine, what my routine is right now. So let's talk about what it really is right now, and just some of the basic stuff that I do. It's all about mindset.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, they're naturally drawn to picking up the phone, seeing what's going on in the news, seeing what's going on in their social media accounts. I've chosen personally not to do that. I've chosen personally to feed my brain what I want it to first thing in the morning. And so, that often is what I'd like to accomplish for the year. Just a few basic thoughts about, hey, here's what I want my year to turn out to be.
Okay.
And then, I'm going to either listen to a podcast, or I'm going to read a book that I'm reading. And it's just about mindset, about improving myself. That's typically how I start my day. And then I move into what's important to get my day done. And then, of course, there's getting it all done. I need to spend more time getting some exercise in the way I need to. So that's
the should part.
Like. And so that's got to happen. That's got to happen. And so that's where I'm most inconsistent. But we love the outdoors. We love staying busy and active. And so I end up chalking it up to that.
I love that. I mean, we talk about routine on the podcast so often because it's so important to start your day and have a routine where you control what comes in. And, what I just picked up from you was like thinking of just reading a couple of sentences about what you want your year to be like. I mean, we spend all this time early in the year goal planning or year planning. And it's a great reminder here sitting earlier in 2022 in January, thinking about like how we maintain those goals and those consistencies, but to like read that stuff in the morning every day, it like imparts into your body, into your cells. So such a good reminder for me, like thinking about that.
It's easy to get caught up in like doing the details,
right?
That I forget about the reasons why, kind of the big picture. And so I try to spend at least a few minutes. It doesn't have to be like a 1 hour meditation meeting. It could be literally 5 minutes. Hey, here's kind of what I like,
just leaf through it.
Like.
Right.
Okay, got it. And I reminded myself, okay, now it's time to get into everything else.
It is a good reminder. It's like touching a cornerstone, right? Keep coming back to north, right? Every day. And daily routine is so important to me. What do you, one final question as we wrap up here. For you, what does it mean to live a rich life?
For me, living a rich life is five, what I call the 5 F's. You probably heard of it. I like to live by that. Faith, family, finances, fitness, and fun.
Oof.
My goals are set around those 5 F's. And so living a rich life isn't just about the finances. It's about all those other areas, right? So if you've got a faith, you're kind of spending some time, either weekly or daily or monthly, kind of around that, whatever that is for you, for me. And then there's family, yeah, absolutely, finances, fitness, whatever that means. And then just being totally selfish, fun, just doing something that just is all about you and giving yourself permission to do that. And so that for me is living a rich life, is always kind of thinking about those areas. And it's not always easy to be balanced in those areas when you're, kind of going supercharging,
Sure.
building a business, you are always kind of lopsided. And that's one thing I've realized is that there's moments of balance in our life. And if I can get to as many moments of those as possible, then I think I'm living a rich life.
I guess I do have one more question. Who do you look up to? Who is your, do you have mentors, or who do you look up to and aspire to learn from?
Well, a lot of my mentors have been, people that I personally know. I mean, there's successful people out there that you might follow, but they're, unless they're personally spending time with you, for me, they're giving me some basic info, but it's going to be, people that have been successful either in my line of work, 1 or 2 key people that, I go to for guidance, that I ask for questions, people in my family that I like the way that they think and they live their life. And so I've got a handful of people that, mentors that I go to. There's people that I've kind of grown up with, the same age, some business. We're all going through our kind of struggles, but we're always feeding off each other. Yeah, I've got a handful of folks that are that way.
Yeah, I don't know why I just asked that question. It just came to me, but as you were speaking there before, it just reminds me how important it is to think about who do we look up to, and who do we aspire to be? Who is the next highest version of ourselves that we can focus on and start to work on those things, right, as we live our life. So I don't know why I popped that question to me, but it's just a healthy reminder for everyone to always think about mentors and people to look up to.
Yeah, it's so important.
It's so important.
Had it not been for mentors, I wouldn't be, where I am today. Had it not been for all the books I read, I could give you a list of just, a bunch of mentors that I've, read about through books, over the years. These are all people that have contributed and shared.
Yep.
But you got to find someone that is living, the kind of life that you'd like, not just monetarily, but in the way in which they go about their life, how they treat people. And you'll be surprised at how people are willing to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely.
To give. And what they love most is someone ready to listen and follow through. And that takes time to be ready for that.
I love that. So Joshua, if people want to get a hold of you or connect with you, learn more from you, how can they reach out?
Yeah, so I got social media. They can search for Joshua E. Hernandez on Instagram. Instagram is Joshua E. Hernandez. You can also look for the same Joshua E. Hernandez on Facebook. Throw that E in there. That'll pop me up. There's a few out there, Joshua Hernandez's.
And we'll put all your handles in the social media links, and we'll put it all into the podcast recording too as well. Yep. Well, look, I really honor you and appreciate you being on the podcast today. I'm really glad we were able to do this finally, and you just have so much to give, and you're doing such great work with people, and I really appreciate your holistic perspective about life. And so it's just been really great to spend time with you. So I appreciate you being here, brother.
Yeah, it was great being here as well, man. Good hanging out with you, and thanks for the opportunity. This was fun.